Watching cartoons, watching cartoons, watching cartoons, watching cartoons. Two dudes watching cartoons, 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 watching cartoons, watching cartoons, watching cartoons.
Welcome back to Two Dudes Watch Cartoons, the podcast where two dudes, that is us, watch cartoons. My name is Evan.
And my name is Alex. Today we got an interesting one, switching it up a little. No, I'm excited. We got a fun one. We have our real good friend from college here. Gary, we told you we could have you on the podcast when pigs fly. Turns out today we're covering Porco Rosso. Sorry, that was a lame joke. We're happy Gary's here.
Perfect.
Yeah, Gary, introduce yourself a little to the audience here. And tell them a little about yourself.
I am Gary, and I watch a lot of TV.
Oh, you fit in perfectly
true.
around here. Welcome. No,
Gary,
we've known Gary for a long time. He was Evan's roommate for a number of years.
also your roommate.
Gary and I roomed together too. Yeah. I'm throwing out a bunch of history.
I was a floating roommate. Come on now.
Yeah.
I was all-time roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, you picked out a great one. I'm going to be honest with you. We let Gary pick the movie. We were covering Porco Rosso, which I don't know that's actually his last name. What?
Rosso.
Don't you know Italian, dude? What are you doing?
How do you say
Don't
it?
you know it? Rosso?
Porco Rosso.
Rosso. Oh, my bad. My bad.
Don't you know Disney's Italian?
Yeah, clearly.
Or Disney's converted Japanese Italian?
I had never seen this movie, Gary. What's your history with this movie? Let's jump out of the gate. When did you first see this movie?
All right, so the history of me watching this movie goes like a little far back in that I was at a pottery show and I bought this piece of pottery and this girl goes, Totoro, and I was like, yeah. And it's because of like I know of like all like the Ghibli films, but I haven't like really watched them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, like I saw on HBO that they have them, so I was like, all right, like I think I'm gonna watch these films. So I started with Spirited Away. I went to like my neighbor's Toto, and then like what's the one with the fish one,
Ponyo.
and then now Ponyo, and then now I'm watching I just watched like the one that we're talking about today. So
Okay.
that is my history with it. It's not a vast history. It's not like a super love for Porco Rosso, but I think it actually is like a pretty underrated film.
Yeah.
Well, even
I had
in-
never even heard of it. Go ahead, Evan.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Even in the also, is this like a GIF situation? Is it Ghibli or is it Ghibli? I honestly don't know.
I have no idea. I don't even
always
speak
said
English
Ghibli.
good, so
Yeah,
I'm not really the person that speaks English well, so I don't think that you
We're
should
the-
ask me.
kings of mispronunciation around here. Maybe that's just me,
Yeah.
but so yeah.
I think the rule of thumb should be like whatever is most hilarious.
A good rule of
That
thumb.
should always be the rule.
All right? Lean on the side of hilariousness.
I hadn't seen it either, but I was. It did pique my interest because we watched Luca last year, and that movie is set in like Italy, and the town is called Porco Rosso, and it's like a direct homage to Porco Rosso, and so that was my first time. I'm not hearing of it, but like seeing it referenced outside of it. So, and then
So I
always
was
see
right. His last
the
name is
cover.
not Rosso.
What is it?
I don't know. It's not Rosso though. They say something else.
Yeah,
His-
it's his. That's like his moniker. It's like
Yeah, the
Crimson
red pig. Yeah.
Rosso means red. Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Stupid me. Sorry. Hey, I'm learning. This film, I'm not kidding. I finished maybe 30 minutes ago. I'm fresh off it. I've been reading about it ever since. I'm amped to talk about it, though. I really am. I think there's a lot. What's really interesting is any Studio Ghibli film, you are...
Jablinski.
Yeah, there's like so much to it. This is like we could talk for hours about this. I feel like, but But I'm really glad you recommended it because I don't know I would have checked it out anytime soon without your recommendation, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Should we consider it a recommendation since I also like just watched it like 2 days ago?
No, it's perfect. No. It's good because there's no way there's no way we could talk about this without spoiling the whole plot because it's so like we're gonna get into it, but like talk about like a romanticized Italian seaside pirates and seaplanes, but also our main character's just a pig, and they don't ever explain it, and he lives in a human world.
It's just clearly Michael Keaton. I feel like the first thing we should really talk about, though, because it's the one that I really want to talk about, so it should be the first thing, is the voice actors and how there's the American, but they're all American.
They all have American accents, and they'll be like, yes, speaking in French and like speaking in Italian, but it's all American. I didn't realize till halfway through that it was fucking Michael Keaton. What?
How did you not? It is only
halfway through. I was like,
Michael Keaton.
I was like, this is Birdman. How did I? No, I'm just kidding. That's not what I instantly equated it to. But I was like, it literally is just so him, and he's perfect for the role. He's perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
But before we dig into the voice cast, real quick, so this movie came out in 1992, so it is as old as I am. And originally, it started out as it was conceptual, or I think it was like a manga series that Hayao Miyazaki had done, and then he wanted to make it a short film in partnership with like Japan Air or like some Japanese airline that they would show in flight. But then
wait. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm so sorry to interrupt. He wanted to partner with an airline about a movie about dog fighting. What? That's insane.
I think
Isn't it to make his first adult film? Well, not adult film like that, but his first like
adult theme.
His first adult theme film.
I mean, he does talk about Peel's butt a lot. Her big butt.
Yeah, we'll get. Hey, wait, no, we will get into all of that. I have notes. Notes. Okay.
So yeah, he partnered with this airline. It was going to be a short. It was an in-flight movie, but then a war in Yugoslavia happened, and so
9/11 world.
I think the story and the plot maybe changed a little because I think the manga is a little more like even more romantic. It's about the planes and like it's more swashbuckling and adventuresome, and maybe less of like a vibey contemplation on war.
Yeah,
but yeah,
on war and what it does to a man.
Yeah,
it was. I think any movie where the theme kind of sneaks up on you like that. It was not towards the end where I was like, oh yeah, wow, this is about what war does to a person. I was like, how did I not catch that from the beginning? I didn't. So, and reading all of the stuff afterwards, what a film. Sorry. I'm too excited.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
too excited.
That was one of my thoughts though. I was like maybe 20-30 minutes into the movie and it's, it's mostly flight scenes and I was like this is beautiful, but where's the Hayao Miyazaki contemplations on war and feminism and then it all once he got to the workshop or met Theo, it all picks up from there. But let's talk voice.
Well said. The animation, as always, beautiful. Let's do voice.
Oh yeah.
As Gary had said, Michael Keaton is the star. How'd you guys feel about this?
I feel like go ahead.
No. It just was wild to me. It blew my mind more than anything.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like Michael Keaton playing Clint Eastwood, but he's also Italian, but he's not Italian. He's like clearly Michael Keaton American. So it's like I love all of Michael Keaton's like I don't know what you'd call him, like a heroism, but him being like, sorry baby, gotta fly, and I feel like that was like the most well executed one. The other ones were like, sorry, I'm a pig, I'll leave that to you humans, or laws don't mean anything to a pig.
Hold on. You are roasting some of my favorite lines here now. I love... No, wait.
Pig lines.
Yes, the pig lines, because the pig line... No, stop. Okay, you guys are not about to gaslight me. The pig lines are like what the movie is all about, is literally... God, no. Oh, you guys
yeah.
are not about to make me feel like I'm crazy here. Look, Miyazaki has a fascination with pigs and the representation of what they mean. So I took note from the beginning that this guy is a pig for a reason, and they very little talk about like why or how he gets turned into a pig. The pig lines are what it's all about. I'd rather be a pig than a fascist. Boom!
Yes,
Mic
yes.
drop,
Okay, that was
baby.
a heater. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, are you
I'll
kidding
give you
me?
that one. I'll give you that one.
No, but so in all actuality, it is about like humanity, and it's about like the feelings and emotions. And because he's like back from this war that like traumatized him, PTSD as I'm sure they call it, he now is not human. He is a pig. All middle-aged men are pigs. Like those, I'm telling you, those lines are what the movie is about.
All right. I'm convinced.
No, we can
I'm
get into it.
convinced.
We can get into it. There's a lot of them though, and I get what you mean. Is like it's supposed to sound like a badass pilot being like, "Don't wait up for me," but it's so much more than that of the movie. Like the movie is not about him being a pirate hunter, bounty hunter. That's very little to do with it. It is about him trying to. He like, oh God, I feel like I could write a paper about this. He has come back from this war, and to cut himself off from like the evils of war and seeing his friends die, he's just like cut himself off from like humanity as a whole. And that's why he's a pig. I think that's why he's a pig.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'd say, well, yeah. I think that is what the hint is, that he's a pig, and that it's like a self-imposed curse, like that he hates that he wasn't able to like save all of his friends, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So then he sees himself as like this pig, and
Yes.
you know, I was gonna make the joke that his pigisms kind of remind me of like a Spider-Man 2, like where he's like putting on that facade of that he's Venom now, so he's like a badass. So to me, it's like he's making all those little like comments as like, yeah, this is what like a hero would say, or not hero,
Yeah.
like a grizzly.
It's
You know,
his.
so that
Yeah.
I think you're onto it. I think you've nailed it. It's like his idea of what a badass pilot would say in this situation.
Which, if that's the case, I feel like that's the second time in a movie I've seen this and like Spider-Man 2, and every time it's like so like not obvious that it just is like awkward that you're just like, yeah, that was like a good line.
Just for
Like, this guy is
point of
just
clarification, that's Spider-Man 3 that Venom is in.
Oh, Spider-Man 3.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
a Spider-Man fan, so.
That's okay. That's all right. I was just putting it out there.
All right, like here, like if you want to get some clean audio so you can edit it for it, Spider-Man 3,
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 3. So just add it like one of those into that, like overclip that, and I feel like
It'll be
it's
perfect. No one will ever know.
Yeah, but
Okay.
remember, this is also one take mic, so you got to make it look
Yeah, no
seamless.
What if it's hey, if you're up for it, this could be our first no edit episode. I'm
No.
Oh, okay. All right. So look,
I
him being a
wasn't
pig is important. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I love the character of Porco, but I'm not completely sold on Michael Keaton as this character. Like,
No.
I don't think it works. I think there's probably someone who could have pulled it off better. He does a fine job, but it's not my
Do you
favorite
get
voice
that
performance in this role.
mainstream success without
What do you
Michael
mean?
Keaton though?
Right, it's 2005. It's Disney.
True,
It's
true, true.
2005.
Yeah, it came out in the
Yeah.
U.S. in 2005.
Yeah.
And then one of the leads, Gina. I don't even know the voice actress's
Susan
name.
Egan.
Thank you. I know her as Meg from Hercules. Ready for this?
Yep.
I spotted her faster than I did Michael Keaton.
You did? Wow.
Really? But what
So-
about then Brad Garrett?
Brad
He
Garrett. Who
was
did he
great.
play?
The Mama Ayuda leader, dude.
What? Oh, I missed
Brad-
that.
The gang-
I
the
missed
gang
that
leader.
actually. Yeah, I did. I missed that one. Sorry, I haven't looked it up. We are
That's all right,
teaching
that's
me
all
the
right.
cast for the
I think
first time.
I think you literally just outed yourself as not an Everybody Loves Raymond fan. Like I think that you must
Guilty.
hate Everyone Loves Raymond.
Guilty. I mean,
Or
I
a
know
new-
who you're referring to, but like, you're right. I did not watch a ton of that TV show. Guilty as charged.
Susan Egan is Gina, the love interest. Was Megan Hercules. Also Belle in the original Broadway production of Beauty and the Beast. Lynn in Spirited Away, and
Oh.
Rose Quartz in Steven Universe. Pink.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
That
It's kinda
is
stacked,
mind
voice
blowing,
cast.
but that's fun.
yeah.
Right.
And then,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead. Oh,
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Oh, you know that.
One take.
Baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. One take, Mike. One take, Mike. That's how you know that it's one take. If I keep saying that. No, I was gonna say that I do kind of agree with Evan on Michael Keaton, because I think there are a lot of like other really or like good voice actors, and then so it sort of like cuts a little bit of Michael Keaton's performance.
So
Yeah.
I just watched Dope Sick with Michael Keaton, so I think he can do no wrong. So he could be the star of whatever he wants, in my opinion.
I love that he had, like, after the 90s, he was not in the mainstream. And then there was the Michael
A resurgence.
Keaton Renaissance, like Birdman. And then, wasn't he in Step Brothers or something like that?
No.
He was like
No. He was in The Other Guys, where he has
Other
the
Guys.
hilarious running bit where he keeps quoting TLC songs and lyrics, but he like pretend like he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, listen, boys, don't go chasing waterfalls. And they're like, no one says that unless you're quoting the TLC song. And he's like, never heard it before. And you're like, no,
Yeah.
it's great. It's really funny.
The most 2010s joke of all time.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I would actually say Other Guys is what got him back into the mainstream a bit. That was like his first role where people were like, oh yeah, Michael Keaton, look at this guy. He used to play Batman.
So I'm
ended
not
up in
gonna
the
lie.
Spider-Man universe.
And yeah.
I think Michael Keaton and Christian Slater to me are like the same guy, especially older in life.
Stop.
I just always, if I see Michael Keaton or Christian Slater, I'm just like, that's Christian Slater, but then I'm also like, that's Michael Keaton. So
Yeah. They fill a similar space in the zeitgeist. Theo is the younger female lead in this movie, played by Kimberly Williams-Paisley from Father of the Bride, but I recognize her more from According to Jim, the Jim Belushi sitcom.
Did you watch a lot of According to Jim?
I used to, yeah.
So, Theo was one of my favorite characters in the thing. And there's a moment where Theo's like designing the new ship. And I was like, is Theo the lo-fi hip hop girl? And I looked it up and she was not. I was convinced.
you almost got me for a second.
Guys, I thought I was about to come here and drop the hottest fact of all time, but it's not true.
Yeah, so that's all the big names. Well, there is a random small role. One of the pirates, one of the Mama Ayuda pirates, is voiced by Frank Welker, who voices Fred in Scooby-Doo, and also Megatron in the Transformer cartoons. I didn't know there was that crossover, but
Love it. That's fun.
yeah, pretty
Both huge
fascinating.
villains. Just kidding.
well, and I think that the guy that plays Patrick's in it too.
Like SpongeBob,
Right?
Patrick?
Or is it? It's either Patrick or he plays Marshall's dad.
Is this the
in
Krusty
How I Met Your
Krab?
Mother.
No, this is Patrick? You mean that Patrick?
I have to double check. All right,
Patrick
producers,
Star. Yeah.
please double check this.
Okay. So, voice
Wait,
cast good.
Curtis is Carrie Elway from The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Robin Hood Men Tights.
Who
Viewing like
who
an
is the
American
only
accent.
who's the only non-American?
He's
But still doing it away.
But plays the American.
The most American. He's got a Texas accent.
Sweet Southern accent. The whole.
Okay, so not only does he have a Texas accent, he has like a Croatian flag on his lapel, and then he also has the most French Italian mustache I've ever seen in my life.
Okay. All right. Gary brought it up, so we're getting back into the pig comparisons. So throughout this film, there's a lot of things like him calling him a pig, and now that Gary has actually put it in context for me that it's a self-imposed pigdom, if you will. The self-imposedness of it, he's actually one of, so like if you look at everyone's like mustaches and beards, all the pirates and even people in town, they're all like gruely, unruly, and his is, like Gary said, so clean and French, like the pigs, both Pig and the real American, I'm blanking on his name
Curtis.
at the moment, but they have two of the cleanest mustaches, and I think because it's supposed to symbolize like he's not actually a pig. It's like his own thoughts and feelings about himself. Like compared to everyone else, he's actually a pretty good dude. He's pretty honorable. Oh, he's honorable, like Theo said. Oh shit.
Yeah, it definitely was a simpler mustachioed time. I think this is like, I think you can tell by some of the mustaches that this was back when the toothbrush mustache was still in, and it wasn't. It was no longer a faux pas.
Had to be. You're not getting those mustaches without a lot of work.
This reminds me, Theo's grandpa, I think Piccolo something, is voiced by David Ogden-Stiers from MASH. He has some other pretty prominent voice roles that I forgot to write down, but they're somewhere.
But does he break does he break from the cast by like him and the grandma being the only ones that are like even attempting like an Italian accent?
Yeah.
Like remember when the grandma comes on, she's like Porcolino.
Yeah.
And like that's the most Italian person.
The whole attempt.
But like if you look at like a map of where they are, they're in like the islands off of like the Balkans. So like there's like Italy, and then there's like essentially like Italian and like Croatia, like the old Balkan states. So like they're essentially all Italian.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, this is one of the few Ghibli films that is set sort of in the real world. It takes place in the Adriatic Sea. I think the town they're in might be fictional, but it is set in like 1929, post World War I, Italy. So, you know, some of this
besides
the
him
Miyazaki
being a
war
pig,
commentary there.
Besides him being a pig, it is the real world. Like there's no magic, there's no what have yous, which I enjoyed, which is a little different. Not saying I don't enjoy that in a Miyazaki film normally, but this was really refreshing. It had the same beautiful feels, looks, tones, but I think because I was searching so hard for a theme and meaning, I was like, there's no way he's letting this go all vibes like a Tim Burton film. I really ended up enjoying it.
Yeah. But it almost is. It is, yes, there's like the dogfight towards the end, but it does feel pretty slice of life pacing wise. Like this could have been a 90-minute episode of a series. Like there's like one adventure. It's the big airplane showdown towards the end, which I appreciate about the movie. And I think that is, but like it's even more understated than a Ghibli film normally is. Like we talked about Spirited Away and how that kind of played out like a chapter book where you're reading along, and this one was like a chapter of a chapter book.
No, that's a good point.
Which I mean, that's like sort of what I love about his ability to like build these worlds or these like partial worlds is he doesn't like have to like explain anything to you. Like there's very little exposition. It's just like, you know, and I think it's like really cool to see in this film because you think like I got like a little flyaway here. Let me hide that from the camera. But
one take, baby, one take.
Yeah, one take, Mike. One take, Mike. Maybe one take, Mike. But no, so like you like I think there's probably like when you build like a real world, like I think that like makes it somewhat easier. But at the same time, like I think he was like flexing his muscles because at the same time he still made it feel like so like fantastical. You know, like these, you know, like I was like, man, I had never seen it like. Any of those planes, like all those seaplanes were like so cool, you know, like the huge motor on top of it and stuff, and then like sort of like all of like the nods to like that Italy was becoming, because you know like between the WW1 and WW2 Italy becomes like fascist.
Yeah. So
then like you can see like all the guys like with the armbands on their shoulders, and like there's like all these nods to like fascism and now how Italy's becoming fascist. So I don't know, it's cool that Ghibli Ghibli has this ability to essentially like craft this world and all of these like these plot lines and settings without ever like saying anything about them.
So true. I think that's great storytelling when that is such like a minor detail, but it's very present and it's very important for the story. It's important to his character. You know, he fought in the war, he lost friends, and now he's like, man, the country I once fought for has turned to the dark side. Like it's real dark human emotions, but you know, we're watching a pig that flies planes experience them.
I was watching like a YouTube overview of the movie after I watched it, and the way they described it, I think, sums it up really well. It's like the fascism is present, but it never envelops the movie, never becomes what it is. It's sort of this undercurrent through the whole thing, which is pretty cool.
Good term.
Like I had said earlier, like the first maybe 20, 30 minutes seems pretty lighthearted in perspective with the last half. And I was like, where is the Hayao Miyazaki commentary? And then as soon as he meets Fio, she says, "Are you leaving because I'm a woman?" I was like, oh, there it is.
There it
is. No subtlety.
No. And there is, I mean, we should just get into it. There's a lot of commentary on Fio, like just as like a young girl that everyone fucking loved. And that was the Spotify or the lo-fi joke. I was going to be like, everyone still loves Fio like they did back then. And so, but it's not the same person, damn it. So joke ruined. So, but this was one part of the film. Now, Fio's a 17-year-old girl. In today's standards, she is underage. The movie does not treat her like an underage.
Is she actually 17 in the movie?
Yeah, I mean that's what they said. There's like a specific dialogue it says she's 17. I took note of it. The movie does not treat her as if she's an underage woman, so I don't think we should either, if that makes sense. I think it's maybe a cultural thing.
Yeah, times have changed. You know, this movie was 30 years old, and it's about a time that was many years before that.
Yeah, it takes place in the 1930s.
Yeah,
it
almost
has
100 years ago.
All the anime vibes from like this is a 16-year-old girl and what's up?
No. So
it's essentially.
I like I said, once you get over that little bit, I don't think it's meant to be, but you know, there is commentary where he's like, all middle-aged men are pigs. And like, so no, but so like, there was part of me that was grappling with it. And I think that's part of what made it so interesting is, you know, Fio is, a great engineer. Like she demands to go on this adventure with him. There's a little too much talk about her butt being bigger than it should be. Yeah. But so like, this was like a really interesting through line, and then it ends with the stakes of like her getting married off, and the other, like the American dude, that was the bet.
Married off.
No. Sorry, the stakes.
Yeah.
The stakes were her emotional. Like the stakes of the movie were like, oh, he has to let her go get married. And even at the end, the guy was like, you can't have both of them. I was like, what is going on here? I can't really tell. Like he's got his like old love, like his old war buddy's widow that he loves, like for many, 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 many years. But he's also like, yeah, Fio's that hot new thing. It's weird. It's weird.
Not to bring us back to Spider-Man, but what's that Tobey Maguire movie with Jake Gyllenhaal?
Jarhead? Oh no,
it's like brothers or something.
I don't think I know it.
Jake Gyllenhaal marries Tobey Maguire is lost in combat, and Jake Gyllenhaal marries his wife, his widow.
Classic.
But then he comes back and has a classic freak out. Anyways. Sorry.
Yeah. It's not Pearl Harbor, is it?
No, it's not.
I think that's the plot of the like Pearl Harbor movie.
The war in Iraq. No.
I think it's the same plot.
Dylan.
So,
Dylan would though.
So, but yeah. Well, so I mean, the romantic interest of this pig Porco, which also we got to just say his name was Marco as a human, and so when he turned into a pig, he's like, I'll go by Porco. Like.
Pretty classic.
It's pretty great, I guess.
Wait, is Porco Italian for pig?
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
would
I
hope
just thought it was like pig and Marco together, or I thought it was pork and Marco together.
Porco, I mean, it could be, but
That
it
he just
also maybe is
combined.
Italian for pig.
Yeah, I didn't know Italian for red, so it probably is fucking Italian.
It is. El Porco.
It just stands for red pig.
Alex is just like, man, beautiful. It's like super on the nose. He's like, dude, can you believe that they combined Marco and Pig?
I'm reading way too into it. I'm like, genius.
Yeah, you're like, oh my.
And then they're like, well, in Italian, it just means red pig, actually.
Where's the Alex has got the whiteboard out. He's like, okay, pig.
Yeah, whip the corkboard back out.
Sure.
Creative genius. I love this movie. I cannot believe they did
Yeah.
this.
That is some Miyazaki shit, though. Like an interviewer would be like, "How did you come up with such a brilliant?" He goes, "It just means red pig." Like,
It's just like an okay pun. Not really even a pun. It just is.
okay.
Which that's what wait, Evan, you and I have talked about this before, but like I always wonder how much is lost in translation from Japanese to American.
Yeah.
And like those like choices of dubbing that like Disney would have done, because they did change, like I think the Donald Curtis, what was Donald Kurt or something, like I don't think he was always done. So like they do like obviously change some things, and I imagine that they also change like some lines, but like I'm always like kind of curious, like the things that sound more awkward, I wonder if they're just doing like a direct translation, and that's why it's like, oh,
got to be the case. Yeah.
I feel like for some things, I don't know. I don't want to blame it on every awkward piece of dialogue, but yeah, I would imagine some of it is a translation thing. But I think that is like, I think dubbing is a skill. You know, I don't know it's necessarily needed, but like for an anime watcher like myself, a good dub can make a show like much better, if that makes sense, like
Right.
much more enjoyable, because there are dubs that you can tell everyone is just reading their lines individualistically, like they haven't read the whole script almost, you know what I mean? They don't know the context of what the next line is or what the line before was, and you're like, this is not good. You're like, I can tell these people didn't read the whole script, they just read their own lines.
Next episode, we're watching Porco Rosso subbed.
Yes, so
Gary coming back.
come back, tell you all the
Got it,
differences.
yeah, no.
But wait, so you keep talking about this. What, I didn't find there was really like any awkward dialogue too much.
Must have just been Michael Keaton. Must have just been
Must have been
Keaton's
his delivery.
Sorry, baby, gotta fly.
No, but that's what a flying pig would say, and you know it.
I know. I mean, yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm gonna start saying that. That's actually like I had like a little joke written that like to end the podcast, I was gonna say, "Sorry, baby, gotta fly."
That would have been your tagline off. You're like, well, sorry guys, I gotta fly.
And then if you guys ever become like a larger production company, you can use that audio link as like your outro. Sorry, baby, gotta fly. Then it's like,
You get a royalty every time. No, it's like
Yeah.
it's like the end credit thing. You know how like what's J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot? And so it's like Bad Robot. Just the one slide.
I
at
always
the
think
end.
of,
or Dan Harmon has his production company, Star Runs or whatever.
I don't know why I think of like Nathan For You when they go absolutely.
Yeah, that'll be our outro
Yeah.
if we
Okay.
become a
Sorry,
billion
baby,
dollar
gotta
corporation. Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's not the best line, but it's not that. It didn't like stand out as bad to me.
There are some great lines in this, though. I think my favorite one, it felt like such a dig, but when Curtis goes to visit Gina in the garden, she says, "Love is a little bit more complicated here than in America. Falling in love happens to you all the time." What a fucking burn.
It was good.
Dude, that American slander, dude, throughout the movie.
I was
loved
here for it. I was here for it. They should have lined them up
What?
next. America, you're fascist.
Did you
now,
catch
too.
the other one, Evan, when he's like when they're like first attacking that like ship to like get Porco Rosso out, and the Americans like flying in the clouds, and he's like, yeah, he's something to the effect of like just like an American like flying too close to the sun.
Yeah. Yeah. I caught that one
Yeah.
too.
So they
They digs at Americans the whole time. That line's great because then instantly after he's rejected, what does he go and do? Falls in love with Theo.
He falls in love with Theo. Yeah,
It's great. It's so good.
Perfect. Yeah.
which I was
Gary,
reading that like he spoke. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Oh, I was just gonna say the line you reference is about as subtle as "Are you leaving because I'm a woman?"
Yeah.
Well, see, and that's what I mean about like the translation
That
stuff.
must
It's
be
like,
direct. Yeah.
you know,
So I think maybe, and we just talked about this on Fantastic Mr. Fox because we watched the Wes Anderson film. I think maybe because we watched that and the dialogue there is so direct, I kind of appreciate it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't need to. I think what's great about it is, like Evan said, the fascism is that undercurrent. But there's other things he's just like very blunt and upfront about. He's like, yeah, this is about how war changes a man and fascism on the underneath. But there's also some commentary here. Let me lay it out for you. It's almost like a distraction, not a distraction, but like it's like a good magic trick. Like, look over here. This is what this movie's about. But then when you're really paying attention, you're like, whoa, this is what he was doing the whole time.
So, from what I have read and seen, I think the interpretation of him being a pig. So it's a self-imposed curse,
Love it.
but from people interpret it as like a representation of his own faith in humanity. So after he loses all his buddies in the dogfight, has no faith in himself or humanity, and there's that one brief glimpse that Theo gets in the middle of the evening of him as a human, and then at the end, after his fight with Curtis, Curtis is like, "Wait, let me see your face" or something, and they cut away. But at that point, in story wise, his faith in humanity is restored. So I really like that interpretation.
It's really good because his faith in humanity was restored, and that's definitely what turned him back into a human. But Theo sneaks that quick little kiss off at the end, which she was like, "Oh, I'll give you a kiss, and that'll turn you back into a human." And it was like, nah, the kiss is not what actually did it, but it was a little bit of a catalyst for him to be like, I believe in humanity again.
Yeah.
but like also like what a like I love that he sort of kept everything off camera. Like so like you don't know if he does turn back into a human. Like there's just like that one comment that that like the American makes. And it could be like the same situation where she's seeing him while he's daydreaming or whatever.
Could be just a flash. Yeah.
Right, and it's like the same thing with the does he end up with like Gina? Like like it's like sort of into that, but it's all done like off camera, which I think is kind of cool.
I love it.
What was your guys' how'd you guys feel about the ending of the movie?
I'm absolutely in love with it. Like I said, for a moment, I was like, wow, did that kiss turn him back? And I was like, nah, his faith in humanity got restored. So it was like, but then I'll be honest, I didn't actually, what was hinting at that him and Gina actually went and ended up together? I kind of thought he went back to the beach and lived on his own.
Well, because she was always waiting at the garden terrace for him.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she would always
empty.
wait there. Yeah.
What? Say again.
So at the end, the garden is empty. She's not waiting there. That's why she reads in the
So it's
garden.
hinted at.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Also,
Or not to, just to play devil's advocate, because I like the beautiful ending. Has she finally like given up like waiting? Like he's not coming around. Like after I've seen all
Well,
of it.
exactly. Yeah.
Ooh,
you guys
I don't know.
like the
I like
answer?
the romantic ending better. We're gonna say they ended up together.
Yeah, I mean that's what I chose to believe. But if you watch the ending voiceover sequence when Theo flies over whatever that island is called, you see a little red plane parked on the garden side of the island.
You solved it. Love it.
You down.
Love it.
You down.
Porco's a pig.
Yeah.
Porco the pig.
Okay, but we get back to more serious stuff in a second. But like that also like where they kept like Porco's a womanizer. It's like, is he though? Like he's like essentially the only womanizing quote he said was essentially just being like, yeah, you and I, baby, can talk about this by ourselves later.
So
and you're like, oh.
So, but no, they do. They call him a womanizer, a pig, and I think that is just a representation of like, he's a bit of an outcast from society. He's a pig. Like, oh, I bet he lives his life just drinking and womanizing his days away. And it's like, no, that's not actually what he does. You're assuming because of, you know, and I don't want to say we assume that of all war vets, but like I said, people that are a bit disconnected, you know, they drink, they smoke, whatever, like they probably all assumed he was a womanizer, and he just let him because he just didn't care anymore. He's like, what? Let them think what they want.
Right.
I don't give a shit.
Well, that whole scene, like I was like vibing with the movie, but the whole scene when he's essentially, you know, like up in the clouds and stuff is like unreal.
Yeah.
You know, and then like you realize that the halo up top is just like all of the like down fire, or like casualties of the war. Like holy, you know, shit.
He's like, you have to get back to Gina. He's like, let me go instead. That part really fucking got me. I was like, oh, he does love Gina, even in this moment where he's like willing to sacrifice himself so she can still be with her husband. I was like, damn, this is good. This is really good.
Yeah. That sequence was haunting. I was like, okay, this is a Hayao Miyazaki film. Like, this was a fun movie. Yeah.
But for real, can you imagine this being just an inline flight? Like, partner, like, now please enjoy Porco Rosso. And like, people were like, whoa, I don't know, I want to fly after watching this.
But you know, and to me that almost feels like the end. Like it feels like everything that happens after that is like an after credits thing. But like I don't know, like for some reason, like the emotional like climax of the whole movie to me is essentially like, you know, like you're up in the clouds and everything's still, and you just see that this like stream out, you know, out in the background, and like you don't really connect two and two, and then you know when that all happens, I was like holy shit, because then after that it kind of just goes back to being like a lighthearted film, you know, because for the most part, like Evan said, it's just like a slice of life. You know, you never, you know, it's like you get a moment, a glimpse like into their lives, and then you're out, and like that seems like the only moment that you're like sort of, you know, it breaks that.
Yeah, but that's what's kind of like beautiful about it, is it really is just like this moment of this really larger story, and the fact that we're able to pick up pieces on the beginning and the end of it just from this, you know, what have you time that we watch of it. It's really good storytelling in my opinion. And I think something that Miyazaki does amazing is like halfway through the movie, you know, I've never once in my life had any interest in this, but I'm like, oh, I'm a seaplane enthusiast now. I was like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna love seaplanes the rest of my life because of this one moment in this film. It's like really amazing though.
Which and I think that like that whole scene when all those planes are flying up is like a nod, because I think however you say his name is, I've been saying Ghibli because I don't want to butcher his name, but I think that's supposed to be a nod to like his love for early aviations, because then, you know, obviously it's a poignant moment, but like he's also like drawn all of these different types of planes.
In some interviews about this movie, he said that like he would love to make like a frivolous, because he loves, you know, old planes, tanks, vehicles, machinery, that kind of thing, and he's like an enthusiast about it, and he would love to make like a frivolous movie about those things, but he's like, I would make it out of my pocket if I could, but like studios aren't interested in, so like as a backup he has to make this really beautiful film
that's like
a war vet dealing with humanity.
What's so interesting to me is most of his messages are so anti-war, anti-capitalism, anti-consumerism, but like to be so interested by like tanks, warplanes, that almost is like a weird fascination for all of it, his stuff being so anti-war. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know.
Is that like a police detective being a true crime podcast listener? Like, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But I think there is like a beauty. Like, I mean, he's probably like old enough to remember a time when there was like sort of like a lot of like machines were different. But like, you know, like you look at like, you know, for example, like cars, like today, they're like essentially the same car, you know, but they like they all look, the chassis is exactly the same, you know, it's just like a varying difference. But like, you know, like you look at cars like in like the 50s and stuff, you know, like the Mustang from year to year look completely different. You know, you look at all those planes, like they're completely different from each other.
I think
you know,
you're
it's
onto
like
something.
And I think that like, you know, like I like, you know, in the same way, through this movie, like share now the same love for like, like a bygone era of like, like a plane with a huge, motor on top, instead of like, every seaplane I've ever seen in a movie just has like the two legs.
Same.
And that's like the whole thing, and they all look the same.
Yeah. I mean, I have to imagine Hayao Miyazaki's anti-war beliefs and philosophies. I imagine he also probably lived through like World War II, so like that probably colors a lot of his perspective.
Luckily, we have the internet.
Or
Check
at least
yourself, fool. How old is he?
Yeah.
Let me look. He was born in 1941, so yeah, right in the midst of it, or
right
at least after the consequences. Which it's another Ghibli film. I don't know if I call it my favorite, but it's a must watch. It's called Grave of the Fireflies. I don't think he directed this one, but it is like a brutally honest look at post-war Japan, and it's about these two orphans. And it's one of the most sad. It's like a Dear Zachary type of recommendation, but you gotta watch it.
I'm crying just at the name.
Yeah, I did when I was doing some research after the fact. I did see that mentioned, and I was like, yeah, I gotta watch this.
Yeah. This, though, to me, while it has the same feel, same sort of messages, this really felt different than a lot of Ghibli films. In like, I think kind of like what you're saying is that it was based in the real world. It did feel very slice of life. And the messages were more, well, I don't want to say this comparatively, but the messages were more the undercurrent, like you said. I really like that word, because that is really how it felt. Like a blink, if you're not paying attention, if you're on your phone, you could miss a lot of important details, like we said. Right. So, yeah. This I just was really fascinated by this film as a whole. Like I said, I had complex emotions. There was points I wasn't crazy about, but then there was other moments where I was like, best movie ever.
Well, and like to kind of expound on what you're saying, I think what makes it like even more, I don't know what the term would be, like bittersweet or like not like, forever lasting, is that okay? So like they're all kind of like happy, like it's almost like it's back to this like roaring 20s era, but it's also at the same time like you're like lagging. So like for the same time you're like being taken down by like the past Great War, right? And so everyone has sort of that facade, that hanging over them. But then at the same time they're like, it's like lighthearted. They're having a good time. Like obviously like he has like some demons that demons that are like he's cursing himself to be this good. But then you can see in the background that they're gearing up for like Hitler and fascism in Europe. So it's like you're interesting because you're in this little blip of time between like the two great wars, and I think that makes it even a little more like slice of life, but like you almost like feel for them because they're so happy.
Yeah.
And then that whole you
what's
can
coming.
Imagine that Porco Rosso and then like all get thrown back into like an even worse war.
Yeah. Well said. No, really well said.
In 2011, Hayao Miyazaki did say he would be interested in making a sequel to this, but Studio Ghibli has since announced that it's not in their current plans, unfortunately. Also, he's real old now, so
this film got a 95 on Rotten Tomatoes. I guess I don't know how well or not most of them do, but that's pretty remarkable, like for an animated film. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of merit here. And so while Gary was talking about this, the sort of the lighthearted nature, but there's like real evils afoot. What they really do well is there's always this sort of gray. Your hero sometimes makes mistakes or isn't a perfect person, but the villains usually are not just like your typical all-out evil, take over the world villain. They're sometimes more like a villain of like circumstance. Like in Spirited Away, it's just capitalism that is getting in the way of everything, and in here it's more so Curtis is hired to go against him more than anything. Like they're two men of gentlemen at the end. You know what I mean? They can shake hands and do it, but like he's got a job. Like I need to take you out of the air, so he's got to do it. So I really like that it's not all good guys are good and not all bad guys are bad in most of these films that I've seen from Miyazaki.
Which I think that's like the beauty of a slice of life is that Curtis is just a guy that's like trying to get some fame before he goes back to America.
Yeah.
So like he has all of his own motivations. You know, like in a way, like you could shoot this entire film from the eyes of Curtis or from anybody. You know, and like there would still be like that protagonist, you know, antagonist or whatever. But like at the same time, there's not.
Yeah.
You know, like really, it's just like people living in this world, and you know, and as you do things, you'll find people that are like
Real circumstances.
that are like
that
and
come
they're
up
doing something
against
counter to what you're doing.
Yeah, it's an opposing force of your own, and it's not just because this person's evil, like in a lot of Disney films. They're just the evil whatever.
Right.
They're
Well, because you never really like think of Curtis as that bad of a guy. You know,
No.
like he just is like he's overly like romantic and you know and etc. But he's not really, you know, he's never like even the pirates aren't crafted as like these like horrible guys.
exactly.
He's
They're
more
so
of
nice
a
to Miss
foil
Fio.
to Porco than
Great
than a
word
villain.
for it. A foil.
What makes it the ultimate slice of life movie to me though is the ending voiceover. I was like, it felt like an episode of Scrubs. Like JD comes in with like wraps it up neatly with a bow.
Man,
With the voiceover.
Scrubs was really
but
good
that's
at
what
doing
makes it
that.
feel episodic. Yeah.
Right.
Man, I really think a sequel to this would be interesting because I feel like you said it would be almost episodic. Like it could have very little to do almost with this whole story we saw, but it'll have some overlapping characters and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Right.
This has like such a feel of real worldism to it. It's not like while we did follow Porco, it sounds silly to say now almost. I don't know why. So because I really thought it was Marco and Pork and guys. I was convinced. Okay, so but Porco though he God, I lost my thought. It must not have been a good one. Sorry, guys.
Well, so if you okay, wait. So if you are the ones like writing the sequel, where do you put it? You know, like do you put it like the Second World War is like on the cusp of happening?
Yeah.
You know, do you put it like in the middle of it? You know, do you do like a repeat where he's after it?
I was gonna say either right before World War II is like gearing up, or right after. But I don't know timeline wise how old they'd be after.
Yeah. I would say
I think he's like in his
before.
30s.
Well, there was, I guess you're right. He was probably in his 30s because just based on what he said. But there was at one point where I thought he was like really, really old because he was like cutting it up with the grandmas. And I was like, is he their age? Until they like showed the flash of his face. And I was like, oh, no. I was like, is he an immortal pig? That's kind of what I thought for a second.
Yeah, I think he's like 37.
Yeah.
I think I went. Well, 37 or 47. But you know, like it
Too
is
old for
interesting.
Fio. Sorry, we can go on. I had to say it.
You know, because there, you know, like World War I, you know, obviously, you know, was like I think like Europe like essentially jostling for you know like you know territory. Where you know and he felt like a pig after that. Like imagine him, you know, and how he feels after the atrocities. You know, especially because you know you're talking about you know Italy. You know, I believe in the First World War was on the Allied side, and then you know you fast forward, you know, like to the Second Great War, and they're on the opposite side.
I'll be honest, I
you
didn't
know,
realize that. I thought they were on not the good side both times. I'm no history buff, but so that's actually
Germany was on the bad side both.
I thought they both were. I thought they
not
both
us,
were. I
so.
thought they both were. Sorry. So
0-2 on Great Wars.
so also I hate calling those wars great. Doesn't that feel weird? Like people are like, "Oh yeah, those great wars." Like
But I think it's like I always I say it so I don't stutter, but I think you know that's sort of like a you know like imagine you know like if you ever look at the casualty count to those wars and stuff, you know like they're you know like and how much you know like it enveloped people's lives, like you know like here in America, where like the only attack on our soil was like 9/11, like like think about how much that like impacted us, and how much like that like messed up, and we're still reeling, in terms of like psychology from that. Like imagine you're like in Europe, you're in Italy or any of those areas, and like they even like sort of hint to it where he brings that huge pile of money, and like, and he's sort of saying like money has like has like essentially devalued, which is what happened in that area. And then like you can almost notice also that that like all the men in Italy are gone. Like they're either like, the only time you see the men, they're essentially like really old, or they're like that secret police. But like all the work is being done by like the women. I think it's all like this.
They made a point that the men had to go find work elsewhere because there was just nothing.
One of my favorite lines is Grandpa Piccolo saying a prayer: "Please forgive us for building fighter planes with the hands of women." Amen.
He snuck it in there.
I really love.
He snuck it in there at a table of literally 50 women. He snuck it in at the last second.
Oh, so I found my note about him. David Ogden-Stiers, who voiced Grandpa Piccolo, was the doctor in MASH. Cogsworth in the Beauty and the Beast animated movie. John Jones, Martian Manhunter in Justice League. Governor Ratcliffe, the villain in Pocahontas, and Dr. Jumba Jukaba in Lilo and Stitch.
Wow.
Pretty decorated voice actor. Yeah.
I was going to say, that's pretty good.
Which you just reminded me of, Evan. Like, what is subversion? Like, you almost think that this film is going to be like a Beauty and the Beast type of thing. But then, like there's never the conversion. And at the same, like he well, I mean, they allude to maybe he converts back to human, but but that's not really the plot, and like him being a pig is almost like just like a side plot that you don't really, that gets used in lines, and that's like about it.
It's more of a character arc than like a plot point. So he has, Miyazaki has said about the sequel that it would have been, it's called Porco Rosso, The Last Sortie. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Set during the Spanish Civil War, which after a quick Google was like 1936 to 39. So.
Oh, so he decided not even to go into the World War II.
Yeah, wow. We totally pitched the wrong movie. He had a different idea.
We're not. But
like, still, I think it would have been interesting to see like how a Porco Rosso that couldn't have that couldn't deal with the atrocities of the First World War to have dealt with the atrocities of the Second World War II, which was like essentially way worse.
Totally agree. This movie though is so jam-packed with stuff. I just was pulling up my Letterboxd reviews, and we don't need to get into them just yet, but this person wrote an essay. I've never seen a Letterboxd review longer than this, so I'm glad to see that, like, people, while this film, I don't want to say is underrated or not as well known, I'm glad to see it has so much appreciation for everyone that does end up viewing it. Because like I said, I just watched it for the first time today, brand spanking new off of it. But I came away with so much appreciation for it as a whole. And I'm glad to see that other people do too.
Yeah. I do feel like it's
one
of the more underrated ones. Good.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I read a review. It was like by like, it's called this thing called Common Sense Media. And I thought it was funny that they described it's packed with cartoonish violence. And I want to get your guys' take on what you consider violence. I would describe this movie as violent.
Yeah, but the gunshots at someone.
I guess the dog fight.
But is shooting guns violent?
Yeah, it definitely is. If you're shooting it at a person, that's violence.
Yeah.
I feel like violence has to be blood and like gore and like killing and like, I mean, they do fight, like they do get all bruised up.
They get badly
violent.
Cartoonishly bruised up. And it's so weird.
But, like packed with violence, like scene to scene, the violence is like you gotta cover your kid's eyes.
No, I actually thought it was there's very little blood. There is gunshots at other planes. I think that's where the violence come in, is shooting to like kill.
Yeah.
No, but it's not even to kill. It's always to hit the motor.
Porco makes a point. They make a point that Porco does that. Not everyone else does that. He's a gentleman.
Yeah, but then you see like Donald Curtis, like when he shoots up Porco Rosso, like in the beginning, he only shoots up his engine.
No, he's just bad.
He's just a bad shot.
He's a bad shot. You read that totally wrong.
That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie is during their fight at the end in the air. Curtis runs out of ammo, starts shooting at him, and then Porco throws his little broken lever at him and boomerangs it to his face.
Boomerangs it
That was
right
so
at
fun.
him.
They're just like trading barbs, like
Yeah.
yelling at each other from the plane.
I really liked
It is
almost
really fun.
the anticlimacticness of the dogfight devolving into throwing stuff, and then they're just like, now we're gonna fist fight, and then like they both almost lose. I was like, this is totally devolved like from like a, I'm gonna shoot you out of the sky to like two men being like, I win, no I win.
Yeah.
And like I just really like the real life stakes of that, you know what I mean?
Right, that it like sort of allowed them to like just continue on as like these characters.
Yeah, there was no one went to jail or had to die. They literally just left the scene together. Like, let me see your face. You know what I mean? So,
Which I
love it.
yeah.
I love it. Like I said, it's that gentler touch of like being good at like who's a good guy and a bad guy.
And then you have the Second World War looming over
Yeah.
all of their lives.
Let's I think we should get into some like closing thoughts before we do letterbox reviews, because I think that
Yeah.
I think the reviews are really like good and hearty, if that makes sense. So, let's closing thoughts. Evan, why don't you start us off here? What are your closing thoughts on this movie?
Watch it. I think it is definitely underrated. I think it's not one of the films that is brought up in the Ghibli conversation. You know, people talk about Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke. I think those are probably the two more popular ones. But I hadn't really heard of this movie until it was mentioned in an interview about Luca, a Pixar movie that came out last year. So I really enjoyed it. It is more understated than I think moviegoers have an attention span for nowadays. It's like a slower pace. It is slice of life, but it's really enjoyable. So highly recommend it.
Gary, you have your closing thoughts?
I'm like,
You're good. I'm up. Yeah, you keep doing that. I will. So for me, I think this movie is one of the few movies I left with such like a complex feeling. I wasn't like overjoyed, or I wasn't like, yeah, or I wasn't like, oh, what a sad movie, or like, what a happy ending. There was so much that was going through my head, and Gary kind of hit on it. Like, there was a lot of bittersweet feels to this. While it ended, and, you know, we did solve the mystery that they ended up together, most likely. Upon finishing it, that wasn't my first takeaway. So, you know, there's a lot of like feelings, and I've come to really appreciate this in movies when things are left open-ended, not more so in the sense that they're like, oh, let the audience choose. More so in the sense that that's so real life. So many things in real life get unresolved or pushed years down the road till any sort of thing gets resolved, or just never mentioned again. And it never is another topic of whatever. So I really like that this just, like we said, we were looking at a moment in time, and we only get to really look at that moment. We have to fill in the blanks of what came before and after. And it's really beautiful it's really beautiful storytelling, just with an amazing animated backdrop. So I wouldn't be able to recommend this movie more. We've been hitting some heaters here in the fourth quarter of 2022. And this came up out of nowhere. This was like a Porco punch. I didn't know what hit me, and I'm down for the count. That was good.
Beautiful.
Gary, you got to follow that, unfortunately. What are your closing thoughts?
I got you.
One
So
take,
I would, yeah, one take Mike, baby, one take Mike. So, you know, I would say, you know, I think this is, you know, a great rainy day casual watch.
It's raining here.
You know, because I think,
Perfect.
yeah,
Sorry.
I think, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, like any great slice of life, you know, content, you know, it almost just feels like something that you have on in the background, or like when you're not really, you know, like paying attention. And I think that, you know, like that, because of this world is like so beautifully crafted, and like the score is so awesome, and the sounds are so awesome and stuff, that this movie fits there perfectly. But then at the same time, you know, like, and I think what this movie does great is it takes that slice of life to like, sort of like lull you into like this is a casual watch, and then it has like a very poignant moment that picks you up and throws you back down. And you're like, oh, this is a movie about, you know, war, or it's about post-war, you know, and about, you know, like the how war, you know, like affects people. And, you know, I think in that, you know, like this is like in a very, you know, adult film, you know, like at that. Like, I think that's like the beauty of it is like Evan said, this is very understated. There's so many like nuances in this film that like you almost have to watch it again, or you almost have to read up about, you know, like the history in Europe to then understand like the impact, you know, that all these people have, and how, and again, that it just feels like a bittersweet moment that then he's going to get like torn asunder in like 10 years.
That's good. Really good. Whew. I just, like I said, it snuck up out of nowhere on me. I knew I was going to enjoy it because I love anything Studio Ghibli, except maybe that Grogu animated Disney Plus thing. But I love everything Studio Ghibli. So I do want to, like I said, get into some of these Letterboxd reviews. I have like a rather long one. So if you guys want to, not you, Gary, but if Evan, you want to maybe get some ready, let me start reading this. And I'm actually even not going to read the whole thing. So thank you, J Park on Letterboxd. This gave it 5 stars, and I'm going to be starting in the middle. So, but make no sense, Porco Rosso is one of my absolute favorite Miyazaki films. There's a casual bizarreness to it, most obviously manifested in the Italian society's acceptance of the fact that in an otherwise fantasy-free world, Porco is an anthropomorphized pig. Even the story doesn't really dig into this, instead utilizing it as clever representation for the movie's themes. Marco, the man before the pig, witnessed 3 of his friends lose their lives in service of the Italian war efforts, leading him to detach himself from society. He would be a shallow, individualistic, stubborn pig, ha ha ha, in quotes, rather than consider himself a cog in the machine of fascism. The complex sadness of Porco Rosso is that it's a self-imposed isolation that Marco has managed to both alienate himself from participating in evil acts, but also deprived himself of love and happiness. Gina, a childhood friend who shares his loss like no one else could, has always loved him. We can assume that Marco loves her too, but Marco's layered emotional guilt necessitates a distance between him, society, and Gina. What he fears most is confronting those old wounds, preferring instead to remain a lone pig. Stop. Why are you laughing? Okay, the events of Porco Rosso gently prod this mentality, allows us for a glimpse of optimism for Marco's future in a world without fascism. So I'm not even done. There's still more to this, but what I really liked about this take is like that. Gina, who should be able to relate to him like none other, and they should be able to like share these atrocities, he can't even find himself to relate to her because he can't revisit these old wounds. And it's so strong, and that's why he would rather be a self-imposed pig than even be with a woman that loves him and understands him. Sorry.
Yeah. Mine's a little more brief. This is 4.5 stars from Brian Sweeney. Me, LMAO, a pig who's a pilot. Miyazaki, sending people off to war either kills them or creates a chasm between them and society they can never fully get over. Me, LOL, oink oink. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel about
Very
this
well
movie.
said. Very well said.
That's really good. This one says
I have
4
another one
stars.
queued
No,
up.
I'm sorry, I got a
okay.
short one. I hope it's not the one you have.
Okay.
4 stars,
It probably
10
is.
days quarantined, and I'm Randy for the pig.
What?
Wait, who's Randy?
This one is 4 stars, won't elaborate, but this has Tom Hardy energy oozing out of it. That is great casting. If there was ever a live action Porco Rosso,
I see that.
he's the man for it.
With small man Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Do you
one
got
says,
any more?
Yeah, 4.5 stars. Miyazaki has yet to disappoint me. His world building is so vastly chaotic, yet so deeply relaxing to step into. It may seem smaller than his more popular films, but don't be so foolish. Porco Rosso is no exception. And I think that is like such a way that he has captured real life. Like, there is chaos going around us all the time. There's so much going on. Life is so crazy. But if you can just find those moments of peace around the chaos, like, that's what he is so good at capturing, is like, yeah, there's war, there's all this shit, but like, life is still beautiful. Like, if you take a moment to sit back and enjoy it.
I think that's something that I enjoy about a Ghibli film, is that he does such a good job of like animating in and like taking a moment to like just animate like someone cooking or chopping food, or like it's like it's always like these really small nuances to it that essentially just make it feel like so much more real.
Even him just eating at the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm hungry now. You know what I mean? It just brings you to real life. It's you nailed it. That's really good observation.
On a scale of 5 stars, what would you guys rate this movie?
I have mine. I'd give it a 5. I think it's a 5 out of 5.
Okay.
As far as animated films go, hour and a half of just pure beauty. I could recommend this to anyone. I could tell my mom to watch this. I could tell a child to watch this. I don't know, I would, but I think children would still like it. They'd be like, "Oh, yay, play it! I love it." So,
LOL, oink oink.
yeah, exactly. So I give it a 5.
Yeah, Gary. I'll go.
I would
first.
say. Okay, sorry. Nope. No, go ahead.
One take, baby. I would probably give it a 4.5. I mean, it's a perfect film, but I have to have some sort of degree. I didn't leave it itching to watch it again or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to watch it again, but it wasn't. I don't know. It's just my own personal scale. Like,
I
left
get
me
that.
with a lot to think about, but I love it.
Well, that's true. Left me with a lot to think about. Gary, out of 5, how many stars?
Okay, so I don't have like a really crappy movie like a 0, but if a 5 is Marshall the Shell with shoes on, and like the most beautiful film of 2022, then I would say that this is probably like Evan said, like a 4.5. Like it's not perfect, and I think it's like sort of hard for like a dub film to be perfect, because especially like a dub film in 2000 when there's not really like as much care taken with like the voice acting, and maybe if this is in Japanese, maybe it is closer to like a 5. But like there are still some like rough around the edges thing, but at the same time, I think that, and I think it's really hard for a slice of life movie to be a 5. But
it's like a nice secret to be filled in on.
Yes.
Now I'm part of the Porco Rosso Club.
Yeah, no, that's
the Mile High Club.
That's
it's still really good. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
Like again, it's a great casual. It's one of the better slice of life. Slice of life is really hard to pull off, and I think this does it perfectly.
I agree. You brought up something interesting, and it's a great segue into just some news that we're going to talk about. I'm going to queue up with the first bit of news. Gary kind of teased it. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On wins Best Animated Film at the New York Film Critics Circle. Did you guys think it was an animated film?
Yeah, it's stop motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Stop motion. Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
It's like Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
Is that animated, Roger Rabbit?
Well, yeah, Roger Rabbit.
It's a cartoon. It's obvious.
I was excited for it.
We had this debate with another guest. Is it a cartoon or not? Obviously, there's different forms of animation. Would you call it a cartoon?
I don't know.
I would
call
include
it
stop
animation.
motion.
I don't know. Okay. I'm okay with it. I like covering it. I love stop motion. It's a gray area for me. I don't know how I feel.
I
have not seen
under
the
our
movie.
purview.
You guys both have told me that this movie's phenomenal, and I have yet to see it. And now the New York Film Critics Circle is telling me I got to see it. So I thought that was an interesting bit of news, though, because that took me back a bit. I was like, animated? I was like, what? But no, it is. You guys, you convinced me.
Yeah.
Watch it
Yes.
before it gets an Avatar.
Yeah.
Before it gets like so hyped up that you're like going into it like this is like not that good.
I'm good with self-imposed pigdom. Just kidding. Self-imposed like expectations on movies.
Yeah. I guess the other one is there's a new trailer for Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Did any of you guys watch Beast Wars growing up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. dude.
Yeah, I know what you're
Yes,
talking about. I
it's
didn't watch a ton of
amazing.
it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because I loved that shit growing up. And I watched maybe the first 2 or 3 Transformers movies, the live action ones, and
Yeah.
haven't really kept up and haven't been excited about any of them. Skipped Bumblebee, but the trailer looks pretty badass. I forget the guy, the gorilla, Optimus Primal's in there, Cheetor's in there, the Rhino dude. It looks
is
pretty
great.
fucking tight. I'm gonna go watch that.
Nice.
Alex, you sent this one to me. Amazon Prime Video has surpassed Netflix as the #1 streaming service in the U.S., according to some research.
Gary, does that surprise
and then you sent me
you?
a ranking.
No, yeah, number one streaming service. I don't think Netflix would surprise a ton of people, but Prime Video?
It surprises me in the sense that like the quality is not really there, but like
Yeah.
it doesn't in the sense that like who doesn't have Amazon Prime and it's just like comes with it.
I got you.
But at the same time, I think I do appreciate Amazon Prime is great for like all like any like crappy film that you want to watch or like any like indie film that like if you just want to watch like random indie films that you would like never ever like old day Netflix, like the beauty of Netflix, a bygone era of Netflix was it used to be padded with a bunch of B films or like like just essentially like college
No,
projects.
you're right.
And like that's essentially like Amazon Prime. Like I like despise any Amazon Prime original film. I think all their original stuff is like except for like Red Oaks, I think is all like pretty lame.
Yeah.
But like
Red Oaks is
Didn't
great.
you tell me to
the-
watch Patriot?
yeah, oh, I love Patriot too. I love
It
Patriot.
was great.
I love
Oh, and Man in the High Tower. Oh, and Marvel. And Mrs. Marvel.
Man in the High Tower. Wait, let me get close to my Man in the High Tower is boring.
He's like, Gary starts listing them all off. I guess, Prime Video, you bring up a good point. One, they have that great IMDb, you pause and tells you who's in the scene. But
The best feature.
you are so right in the fact that if something is not on HBO, Netflix, or Hulu, I know damn sure it's on Amazon Prime. I don't know how, but I'm like, oh, I bet it's on Prime though.
Yeah. I feel like because they also have movies playing out, like they do like before they're released on digital, you can like watch like Black Adam a month out is on Amazon Prime. I don't know. I feel like
And
that
they had
fixes the
Thursday
numbers.
night football.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually huge.
All those
Wait,
sports
you know what?
indies. All those sports.
No, I didn't
indies are
even
like,
think
oh,
about that because
yeah.
we're so non-sports focused here. No, that's actually a huge draw for people would be, I can watch Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. And that, I mean, has huge
and
audiences.
2-day shipping.
And 2-day shipping.
And Amazon Music, except then they're like, no, actually, Amazon Music, we're gonna strip everything from it, and it sucks. But...
So the one that was really
Tell me
funny
you
is
guys
I got
don't watch Bosch.
yeah, I got a top 10 list.
Okay, Bosch low key was like, okay, it's not good. It's a procedural. No, it's not even. Well, it's not. It's like a procedural crime drama, but the procedural crime is one season, and that's like okay, but like, come on. No, you're not watching pretty much any Amazon original. You're like, damn, dude, I'm gonna have to call my mom and have like a lengthy conversation with her about the nuances of the plot and the storyline. It's like essentially Amazon is essentially just produces movies and shows that are just like it's
Based off
essentially
of
like
people's Amazon purchases.
exactly, but like they're like bootleg versions of like what's already out there. Like I think their original film, like when they do something original, it's like nice. Like the Patriot, like is pretty original, and that's really good. But like what's like the Lord of the Rings one
Rings of Power.
that just came out? Yeah, that one was like garbage.
Did you guys watch that? Did you watch through it?
Yes.
Not all of it. I haven't finished it. I've
not
only
all of
watched
it.
episode 1, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's boring.
I'm not
Okay, look,
huge into
I'll
Lord
say-
of the Rings, though. I like Lord of the Rings, but I don't love Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. That's fair.
Like you can essentially take any trope from a fantasy adventure, and they just like purposely wrote it into like Lord of the like the Ring of Power. It's like every single scene is like crafted around like, hey, I have to get through this scene. You know, like when he's searching to get into the caves or whatever, he's like, oh, here's a button. But it's like if he's just gonna find that button, why spend the 2 minutes like of him like looking for the button, not doing anything cool to find it, and he's just like, oh, I guess here it is. And it's like because they have to progress the story. It's like the classic like fantasy adventure problem, which is like you just have to progress the story. And if you don't do it nuanced or like subtly, then it's just like too lame.
No. I agree.
Yeah.
I have an interesting bit of news, and it was not. It wasn't interesting to me when Evan first sent it, but upon like doing a little more. So Jacob Tremblay, who stars in the movie Luca, he announced that his favorite animated film of all time is Cars. And I think I have a problem with this. I think I got a big problem with this, if I'm being honest, because that movie is ass. It is one of Pixar's worst movies by and far, and the fact that that's his favorite one, I think he's too young. There's no way.
Yeah.
God. Okay.
Yeah, but what about Mater though? I mean, aren't you like a Mater ship? Like I ship for Mater. Mater's one of the best designed characters.
Okay, Mater's whatever.
Played by Larry the Cable Guy.
Okay, what I don't understand is Jacob Tremblay is in one of arguably Pixar's strongest films, and he's like, "Oh, I love Cars." It's bad press.
He probably grew up with it.
It's bad press.
Maybe it was the one movie he had access to in the room.
Yeah, he was breaking it. He was
bad joke. So, so in that list of the rankings of streamers, pretty surprising that in 5th is HBO Max. So it goes 1 Prime Video, 2 Netflix, 3 Hulu, 4 Disney Plus, 5 HBO Max.
Why is that surprising to you?
I don't know.
I
Just
would
because
say
of the
HBO
quality of the
Max.
content. But
Bro,
it's
HBO Max just went through a
obviously
huge
numbers.
scandal where they were like, "Oh, it turns out they've been lying about how many subscribers they have, and they took away every great piece of media, and they're like, we're not making any more media for you ever." What? I'm shocked they're on the list after the year they've had.
That's so interesting because
It is a great
I would say
platform, but
sorry,
they've had so much controversy this year.
But does that matter to anybody in terms of like your average viewer? You know, like I am surprised that like to me HBO and Hulu are like 1 and 2, and then like Amazon and Amazon Prime to me is like quality wise the worst. You know, it just comes with Amazon Prime, so you just have it. And like Netflix to me is like ESPN on at the doctor's office, where like you just or like you're like Planet Fitness
Cover your
membership.
ears, Alex.
You just where you just like forget that you have it, or it's like the tissue of streaming services. You just have it. You never canceled it. It doesn't really like once you've if you've had Netflix for like 5 years, you've seen everything good on it. There's nothing
without
left.
tissues. You would be a mess without tissues. So I think a better way to say it is the cornerstone of having any streaming like household. How dare you? Not paid for by Netflix. Okay, so
and then Disney Plus is exclusively Star Wars and Marvel, and like the only thing worth on Disney Plus is watching old school cartoons.
So
those are my hot takes.
Disney Plus is interesting to me because I actually know it's not available worldwide either. There are a lot of countries that actually don't even have Disney Plus yet. So that's actually really fascinating to me that it is number 4 on the list. Gary was making a joke about this, but number 6 on the list is ESPN Plus. And so that was one of the more shocking ones. But then there's Paramount Plus, which is 7, which I guess I get. I'm just happy it made the top 10. Apple TV underrated at 8. Peacock 9. Now, Gary, we just listed off so many streaming services. What would you say is number 10?
Number 10?
On this list.
Crunchyroll.
No, but honestly, I would have expected Crunchyroll before the one that ended up on here at number 10. Any other guesses? You have any last guesses before I tell you what it is?
Funimation.
No. Once again, no. I wouldn't be surprised if it was that. It is the Stars app. What? Are you kidding me?
Didn't know they had an app.
What? What is that?
I didn't know they had an app.
I didn't even know. I mean, I think Stars. No, it was Showtime. I was gonna say I think Stars used to have Shameless, but that's not. I wasn't even correct. That. I guess I can't think of too many more streaming services, but good for you, Stars, making the list.
I wonder how many of these are like on there because of like circumstance. Like, is that like because like ESPN Plus comes with
Hulu
Disney
and
Plus,
Disney,
and with Hulu.
Yeah.
So then you're like,
True.
okay, I also have ESPN Plus. And like I think
Stars has to.
like maybe people. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Stars is a victim of maybe you get it like a Hulu package. While I'll always put Netflix, mommy at number one, Hulu I actually think is probably.
Please give me another show. Please put me on another show.
I didn't say that.
Well, although any service, I'll take it. If anybody wants to put me on, I will put you at
I'm
number
still
one.
on my year with Netflix. I still have a year with Netflix, so we'll start talking to the
Okay,
others.
put me on this show.
No,
I've got a great reality show for you.
Hulu, bang for its buck, I think is probably the best. They get really fresh movies in there. Sometimes they'll get new movies, and they have episodes week by week update, which is just
it is also just another outlet of Disney, though.
which is odd. Yeah, it's
FX,
weird
which
that
is
now they're like, oh, you buy
Disney
Hulu?
owned.
Here's Disney Plus and ESPN. You're like, wait, what? I didn't want all this.
Hulu just feels like a better version of Peacock and Paramount. Like I think Peacock and Paramount, they're like
Been around way
well,
longer.
I just mean because, well, yeah, but like Hulu has like all of that lot, like essentially like Hulu for the longest time was like where you went to watch like like the live TV that you missed.
that's
so now
huge.
it's like. Right, but now they've built out their like their catalog. They have a bunch of originals and then maybe a bunch of things that you wouldn't normally be watching. Where like I think Paramount and Peacock are still like a little bit stuck in that like we pretty much have our old shows and that's like what you're gonna come to watch us for.
I don't necessarily see the comparison myself, but after you explain it, I understand what you're getting at. While this is riveting, us just debating the different streaming services, do you have any more news, Evan? I think we've beat this one to death.
I don't, but I figured while we are flying over Italy this episode and talking about HBO Max, any predictions for the last two episodes of White Lotus?
Oh.
I thought you were about to go for like a World Cup. Any predictions of the World Cup? We don't watch sports.
I was like, whoa.
What are you
I was like,
talking
yeah,
about?
Italy's taking it all.
Either or.
I've been loving this season of White Lotus.
Yeah.
They've kept me on my toes, but I got to imagine it is, spoilers if you are not watching the White Lotus, I imagine it's got to be blonde chick's husband that dies. I don't know who's going to die.
It's three of
Any
them.
theories?
It's three people, right?
It's three?
I don't know. I think
that.
Yeah.
that's news to me.
Yeah. She finds like the one body floating, and then when the like manager's talking to the other guy, the guy's like, oh, but they found like there was two other bodies. Blah blah blah.
Whoa! It's the
Yeah,
the three men. It's the family.
So just watch the first. Yeah. So watch like the first 5 minutes of the first episode, and
it's the family that are all gonna hook up with Lucia.
Yeah. But what a banger that the end of the last episode was.
A literal banger.
Absolutely.
No, yeah, but it was.
My theory
Yeah, go ahead.
is that Mia and I didn't know it was going to be three, but I think Mia's my number one candidate for being a body.
No, I love Mia and Lucia. They're my favorite. I think.
I love Mia as well.
I think
But
those
just
two are my
feel like-
favorite. I think if like in season 1, if the hotel manager was like the main character, quote unquote, I would say they're the main characters of this season.
Yeah,
It's hard to
I
have
don't think
one.
it's any of the guests. I think it's
You don't
not-
think it's a
that's
guest?
The rich guests. I don't.
Guest.
I think it's a subversion, and it's just going to
A
be like
rando?
3 people that you maybe have just like seen.
Ooh, okay.
Because they've spent so much time, like building out these, I don't know, these people that maybe I just don't want them to.
You just don't
like
want
any
them
of
to
them
die.
to
You
die.
should, if you haven't though, check out the White Lotus. Even though we just spoiled a ton of
Mm-hmm.
it for you, great show on HBO Max, season 1 and 2.
Did one of you guys text me this that Jennifer Coolidge's husband in the show is Napoleon Diamond's uncle?
Someone sent me that as well. Maybe you and I were talking about it, Evan. I don't know. Yeah, but I recently came to that. Yeah, it's Uncle Rico.
Okay.
That's all.
Anyways, we're on a tangent. One take, baby.
One take, Mike, baby. One take, Mike.
My pitch for the Porco Rosso sequel is Porco Rosso lean pork. He just gets fucking jacked.
I thought you were gonna say Porco Rosso at the White Lotus
Post-retirement.
season 3.
The whole film is actually, it's not even done by Ghibli anymore. It's just done by what's his face that does the explosions.
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay.
Yeah, Michael Bay. He just does Michael Bay. It ditches the whole like any morals or anything. He just gets jacked. He's really it's played by Chris Evans plays Porco Rosso. and there's a scene where all his clothes gets flicked off, and then behind
You
it
just
is
see
an
the
explosion.
butt, and there's an
He's
explosion.
naked.
Yeah, I see the vision. I see the vision.
He bangs like most of the chicks in the film. It's like, yeah, I would actually probably watch it.
Good stuff. Okay.
All the chicks in the film are 16, 17
Okay.
with big butts.
They mentioned it twice. That was what was so annoying.
Yeah.
One time, maybe
But
it's
weirdly-
a translation. Second time, I'm like, Porco, you're just talking about her butt now.
Yeah. When you're like low key trying to get like sexual, but you're not trying to get sexual. You're like, oh hey, no, you sit with that butt. You're like, oh, how is your butt feeling? Clearly, this guy is trying to get sexual.
Oh God, Porco, you pig, you. Okay, so
Porco, you pig.
I'm gonna wrap us up here. You guys have any last thoughts before I sign us off?
One take, Mike.
Gary, what's next on your Ghibli watch list?
Actually, probably that Fireflies
Yeah.
film.
Okay.
I think
That's a
that,
great one.
yeah. Other than that, I mean, all of them. I do want to. I've heard a lot of great things about like what is it, the Howling Castle. Or,
Yeah.
Howl's Moving Castle is great.
Yeah, Howl's Moving
I also
Castle.
really like Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind or something. That one's great. If you guys get a chance, I think it's a recurring annual series, but I think it's called Ghibli Fest, where they will every like month or so they'll play a different Ghibli film on a big screen. I think they also do dubbed and subbed sometimes. So I'm pretty sure it's nationwide. Check it out if you can find a showing near you. It's really cool to see a Ghibli film on a massive screen.
Yeah.
All right, wrap us up.
Nice. Well, thank you for coming, Gary. This was a great pick. A lot of fun. We had a good time with you. Lots of laughs, which always happens. So, but if you enjoyed this and you want to listen to more Two Dudes, please check out our other episodes. We have a ton of them on Apple, Spotify, and also on YouTube. You can follow us at Two Dudes Watch Cartoons on both Instagram and TikTok. And if you're using Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us. And if you're using Spotify, give us a follow. We just learned we could do this. So yeah, follow us. But that's it.
Two guys plus one time. Two guys plus sometimes another guy, or it's a chick. There you go. That's a royalty-free banger that you can totally use.
That's the outro. Don't even play
Thank
ours.
you,
That's
thank you,
perfect.
thank you.
Woo!